Train stations are supposed to be ordinary places, right? Places of movement, full of life, and more importantly, temporary. You're not supposed to stay there. You come, you wait, and you leave. But the thing is, some train stations don't feel that way. Sometimes they feel like they're watching you, holding you, waiting for something. I've had some weird experiences at train stations over the years, but these aren't just stories. They happened to me. And even now, I can't explain them. This happened about a month ago, at one of those small town stations you only ever see in movies. It was late, probably around 11:30 p.m., and my train was delayed. I was tired and annoyed, sitting on one of those cold metal benches under a flickering overhead light. There weren't many people around. Actually, there weren't any people around. Just me. At first, I didn't notice him. I was staring at my phone, trying to scroll through something to kill time, when I felt it. This prickling sensation on the back of my neck. You know when you can feel someone looking at you? Yeah, it was like that. I looked up, and that's when I saw him. He was standing at the far end of the platform, under the last light, where the shadows were the deepest. He was tall, wearing this bright yellow jacket that should have made him stick out, but somehow he blended into the darkness. His head was tilted slightly, like he was trying to see me better. At first, I thought, maybe he's waiting for the train too. But something about him felt wrong. His face. I couldn't see it properly. It wasn't that it was hidden or anything. It was just blurry, like when you look at something through frosted glass. I told myself to relax. It was late, I was tired, and my mind was probably playing tricks on me. But when I glanced back at my phone and looked up again, he was closer. Not walking, not moving, just closer. I froze. I didn't hear him move, didn't see him take a single step, but there he was, 10 feet closer than before. His head was still tilted, but now it felt like he wasn't just looking at me. He was studying me. The hairs on my arms stood on end. I wanted to move, but I felt stuck, like my legs wouldn't cooperate. The sound of the approaching train snapped me out of it. I grabbed my bag and stood, trying to keep my eyes on him without being too obvious. The train rolled in, its lights cutting through the darkness. I stepped on quickly, feeling a wave of relief as the doors closed behind me. For a second, I thought, that's it. I'm safe. But as the train started to pull away, I couldn't help myself. I turned to look out the window. He was standing on the tracks, not running, not trying to stop the train, just standing there, staring straight at me. The train didn't slow down. No one else seemed to notice. I sat back in my seat, my heart pounding, watching the tracks disappear behind us. And the weirdest thing? Even after we'd left him behind, I could still feel his eyes on me. This one happened a couple of weeks later. I was on my way home from a long day, and I'd missed my last train by minutes. The next one wasn't for another hour, and honestly, I wasn't in the mood to sit on a freezing platform that long. Then I remembered the shortcut. There was this old pedestrian tunnel that cut under the tracks to the other side. I'd never used it before. People always said it was creepy, and most avoided it at night. But I was tired, cold, and annoyed. Creepy tunnel or not, I just wanted to get home. The second I stepped inside, I regretted it. The air was different, colder, heavier, like it didn't belong to the outside world. The walls were covered in graffiti, but it wasn't the playful, colorful kind you see in cities. This was darker. Scratches, symbols, words I didn't understand. The faint smell of mildew clung to everything. My footsteps echoed strangely, like they weren't just bouncing back, but being answered by something. I was halfway through when I heard it. A whisper. It was faint at first, barely audible, but it stopped me in my tracks. I stood there, holding my breath, straining to listen. The whisper came again, soft, raspy, and so close it felt like someone was right behind me. My blood ran cold. I spun around, but the tunnel was empty. My heart was pounding in my chest, and every part of me screamed to turn back, but I couldn't. The platform was just ahead. I had to keep going. I started walking faster, my footsteps louder, but the whispers kept coming, growing clearer. Then I saw it. At the end of the tunnel, blocking the exit, was a shadow. It was tall, featureless, and darker than the tunnel itself, like it was swallowing the light. It didn't move, didn't speak, but I could feel it watching me. I don't even remember deciding to run, I just did. I bolted past it, my breath ragged, my pulse in my ears. When I burst out of the tunnel, I didn't stop until I was back on the platform, gasping for air. When I finally turned around, the tunnel wasn't there anymore, just the tracks, empty, quiet.
This last one, I still can't explain it. It was another late night, another empty station. The storm outside was relentless, rain hammering the roof and thunder rolling in the distance. I was the only one there, sipping a cold coffee and waiting for my train. Around 2 a.m., the lights on the far track started to flicker. At first, I thought it was just the storm messing with the power. Then I saw the headlights. A train was pulling into the station, but something was wrong. It was old, like really old. The kind of train you'd see in black and white movies. The metal was rusted, the windows fogged, and the lights flickered faintly. But the strangest part? It was silent. No engine hum, no screeching brakes, just nothing. I walked closer, trying to get a better look. Through the fogged windows, I could see passengers inside. They were sitting eerily still, their faces pale and emotionless. Their clothes were outdated, suits, dresses, hats, like they were frozen in another time. Then one of them turned to look at me. I froze. Slowly, one by one, every single passenger turned their head, their hollow eyes locking onto mine. I stumbled back, dropping my coffee. My legs felt like jelly. Somehow, I managed to turn and run back to the booth. When I dared to look again, the train was gone. The next day, I looked up the schedule. No train had been scheduled to pass through at that time. But I found something else. An old article about a train that had derailed on those tracks decades ago. No survivors. These stories aren't just memories, they're warnings. Train stations aren't always as simple as they seem. Sometimes they're gateways to something we can't understand. So the next time you're waiting for a train late at night, keep your eyes open and don't look too long. You never know what might be looking back.